Donald Trump Jr. is here. That's exciting stuff. Joe Biden gave a speech. He wants some unity. Steve Deace, local election wins, all that and more coming up on I'm Right. All right, we've all had a day to process that wonderful, wonderful election win. And I guess we don't know exactly how many election wins we have, courtesy of idiotic states like Colorado and Arizona and California, who are somehow still counting their ballots. And there are more. But now that we have this tremendous victory, and it was a tremendous victory, and we spent yesterday celebrating and cheering, let's do a little bit of reflection, shall we? First, Democrats are nasty towards each other. And this is not actually unique to Democrats. I should clarify here. Whenever you lose a presidential election, it is standard for everybody to start pointing fingers. It's the old sports analogy, right? Everyone loves a winner. As soon as you win, everything you do is the smartest thing ever. You're the best. He's great. She's great. I love him. We're all friends. That's how it goes when you win. When you lose, you wake up the day after losing an election. You've been there before. I've been there before. Shoot, I've personally been there before running for Congress. You wake up the day after you're losing. It's the bad part of human nature, but it's how we're built. Start looking around for people to blame. And right now, it's amazing. There's Obama people involved. There's Biden people involved. There's Kamala Harris people involved. There's overlap with that. The Kamala Harris people are blaming Joe Biden. The Biden people are saying things like, how could she lose with $1 billion? Nancy Pelosi's being blamed. How could she oust Joe Biden? What you need to know is they're going to go through this for a while, and we should sit back and enjoy watching them go through this. It's really, really fun watching these communists figure out whose fault it was. But it is worth reflecting on, how could they lose? No, I get it. You like Trump. I like Trump more than Harris. She's a disaster. I get that. But think about this for a moment. They had $1 billion, way, way, way outspent Donald Trump. They had $1 billion. They had every single media outlet. We have the organizations now reporting on it that they were the most biased they've ever been. Every single media outlet telling outright lies about Donald Trump and telling outright lies about Kamala Harris. Even formerly fairly reputable organizations like 60 Minutes editing interviews on her behalf. Every single thing was stacked in her favor. They were shelling out campaign cash to Lizzo and Beyonce and Harris, I love you. How in the world, with everything going their way and way more money going their way, how could they lose? Well, this goes back to a conversation you and I have had before, but it bears repeating. In fact, people think I hate these communists, and of course I do, but they all should be watching the show, and they all, if they watch the show, would learn something. Remember the conversation we had about Play-Doh? I know it's a stupid analogy, but it visually works for me, so I say it often. Play-Doh, I want you to think about our society like it's Play-Doh, right? One big ball of Play-Doh. For you younger generation, just know that's a doughy substance we used to have fun with when I was a kid. Okay, so there's a big ball of Play-Doh. This is all of America. The citizens, the leadership, media, everything, all of America. Big ball of Play-Doh. Now, as the communists have taken over the institutions that really a society rests upon, as they've taken over medical, media, education, political, FBI, you name it, as they've taken over every single institution, they've used the power they have in those institutions to try to pull society in a way that society really doesn't want to go. And let's pause on that for a moment before we come back to the Play-Doh. Remember, the reason they lied about all of Kamala Harris's stances, the reason she wouldn't take a solid stance on anything, the reason they were running ads talking about how strong they were on the border is Democrat policies are extremely unpopular. Very, very, very unpopular. So they just lied. And back to this thing. They have the ball of Play-Doh. And they decide to start dragging society in a direction society does not want to go. The American people do not want open borders. They don't want this tranny nonsense. They don't want men and women's sports. They don't want this craziness. But they're trying to drag society there. But like I said, it's Play-Doh. These people see themselves as kings and queens, and where they go, society will follow, but it doesn't actually work like that. If the people hate what you want, if they hate what you're selling, you will not bring them with you. You will slowly but surely start pulling yourself away from the Play-Doh ball. Picture the elites as this little mini Play-Doh ball, and they thought they were going to pull the whole ball along, but instead, that thread between the little ball and the big ball, us the people, started getting thinner and thinner and more brittle. And we're not going with them. You see, they thought they could lie their way and buy their way to an election win, but in the end, the things that they want, they're insane and they're unpopular. And now we have these people. There are so many people out there now. This part does sadden me. I have no mercy whatsoever for the elites, many of whom should be arrested and thrown in prison. But the street communists, it really does sadden me. You have all these street communists out there, all these single mentally ill women on anti-anxiety meds out there. They have completely resided in that little bubble, the little ball, completely in that media bubble. Most of these women have higher education degrees and things like that. They have no idea how normal people, families, working men, things like that work or think. They have no idea how unpopular their worldview is. And they wake up one day after an election and find out not only did Donald Trump get elected, it was a bloodbath. And here's how they're taking it.
I hate to be the person that gets on here and cries. But this could break me and my parents apart because they just don't understand what they voted for and what it means and the bigotry and hatred that they stand behind.
Is anyone else having a meltdown? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to wait. I'm so stressed. I am 48 years old and I have never experienced anything like this and never thought I would in this country. It's like I can feel the pain and the fear from every single person.
I'm sorry! No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
You can mock them, and I do. It's fine if you do. But I'll tell you, a small part of me and that tender heart of mine feels genuine sorrow for them. They are in a bubble. They are in a world of make-believe, and they don't know it. And they're mentally ill. And the elites in the media and politicians have abused their mental illness. I keep making this comparison, as crass as it is, but I'm going to play you another little montage. The Daily Caller put it together. It's really, really well done. But what you're about to see in this montage is not just ridiculous or hypocritical or biased or anything like that. In my opinion, it's deeply evil. As evil as, did you ever have special needs kids in your high school? We always did. I went to public school. And obviously those are wonderful people. And their parents are wonderful people. Did you ever have that one kid in high school who was so evil he thought it was funny to pick on them and abuse them in some way? Sadly, those people, the little monsters like that, are out there. When I look at how the American media talks to all those crazy women, I consider it equal to picking on the special needs kid in school. Every one of those women sitting at home popping Xanax like they're candy. They turn on the news and watch this crap, and their minds just shatter.
This is the biggest red wave I've seen since Ronald Reagan's 49-state victory.
There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country.
I can't help but wonder if the American people have given up on democracy.
I hear what you're saying, and I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite, who are hurting tonight.
If she were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas or from, Florida, do you think she would be losing by that much?
I think that we've got to be honest. Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny.
There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who try to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. People who said that he was a Hitler lover weren't Democrats, they were Republicans. People who said that he was a fascist weren't Democrats, they were Republicans who worked for him.
You can mock that media bias, but that's abuse. That's abuse of every one of those women sitting at home watching that stuff, and then an election day happens. And, it's abuse, and it's wrong. It's freaking evil. To pick on people like that, it's wrong. It's evil. And so that brings me to where I am today. Joe Biden got up earlier today, oddly smiley, I might point out, but Joe Biden got up there today and started talking about unity.
You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature.
Yeah, no. No, communist, you're not going to do that, see. And you need to be very careful to not let them do that to you, because I understand how appealing that sounds. We don't like living in a country like this with the hatred and division and blah, 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 blah. And then you hear that from the other side. Almost, it's like a cool glass of water when you're dried out in the desert, right? Oh, yes, let's turn down the temperature. No, absolutely not. That's the communist trying to use your values, trying to use your good nature, your good heart against you. Now that they've been stripped of their power, now that there is a new sheriff in town, now everyone wants to get along. No, sir. I will not get along with people who have accused me of white supremacy for years and years and years. And I most definitely am not going to get along with the President of the United States of America, who tried to have me fired because I refused to have a vaccine and then got on camera and told me that his patience with me was wearing thin.
Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us.
Turn down the temperature? Unify? No, sir. We are enemies now, and I'm not going to hear any of this unity talk from people who have proven over and over again they hate my guts. You'll have to forgive me if I consider it a manipulation tactic so we go easy on them. No. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I wonder if Don Jr. wants to go easy on any of these people. We'll talk to Don Jr. about that and some other things in just a moment. Now, maybe you're sitting there at home saying, no, Jesse, we really do. We have to go easy on them. Well, that means your testosterone levels are too low. That's what it means. It means you're low T. It's not the end of the world. Look, it's in the water. We drink estrogen. It's in the water. It's in the plastics. We freaking shower in it now. And so testosterone levels are in free fall in this country. So what do you do? How do you fight back against that? Natural herbal supplements from Chalk. I personally take a male vitality stack. There's a female vitality stack, ladies, to get your levels where they need to be. Chocolate powder, Chad mode if you're looking for a pre-workout. The best natural herbal supplements I've ever had in my life from the hardcore anti-communists at Chalk. Go get some. Chalk.com/JesseTV. You will feel better than you've ever felt in your life. We'll be back. I haven't slept. You haven't slept. We're all running on, like Don just told us off the air, we're all running on caffeine and not much else right now, but I still can't stop smiling. I don't even need to sleep. I don't want to sleep. I got to pinch myself. You know, there's a wonderful verse in the Bible, Matthew 5:10, blessed are those who are persecuted. And daggone, did Donald Trump get persecuted? And into the White House he goes again, like the sword of God, I hope. Joining me now, Donald Trump Jr., host of Triggered with Don Jr. Don, your family and you in particular have been through hell. I mean, granted, your dad probably has been through worse, being as how he got shot. But please tell us how you all are doing right about now.
We're doing really good. Yeah, I've joked with my father. Yeah, he actually one time made the comment to me like, "How mad are you that you haven't been shot yet?" I'm like, I actually not all that mad that I didn't get shot. I've been persecuted, but it's at this point in our family, it's almost a joke just how bad it is. It's like, how many hours of congressional testimony did you do? Like we rack up the score. So I'm definitely number two after multiple assassination attempts. But I guess if they're going after you, it's because you're over the target. And the one thing with our family is we're never going to stop fighting. We're masochists that way. But it seems like the American people now understand that. They get that. That's what they give my father such a mandate on Tuesday night.
Don, let's talk about that mandate, because the numbers are staggering when you break down the individual nerd numbers, which I'm sure you're aware of. And we're talking states like California, New York. No, they're not going red, but they are going that direction, and a lot. This was not only an incredible endorsement of your father to have a second term, but a complete repudiation of these scumbags who've been leading the country for the last 4 years. It was really, really pretty stark.
Yeah, it was brutal for the Democrats. When you look at New Jersey, New York, like within like 5 points, Miami-Dade in Florida that has never really gone red. We lost it by 30 points in 2016. We won it by 10 on Tuesday night. I mean, a 40-point shift in our direction. If you look at the young vote, 18 to 29, basically 50-50 around the country. That was unheard of. There are places in liberal states and blue wall states that we actually got more than 50% of the youth vote. That's never been done. African American support almost doubled. And it's interesting. I saw this stuff for the last few months, Jesse. You know me, I'm the guy on the ground. I go around, not at a Trump rally, but at the airport on the way. I think per capita, I was taking more selfies with, black men than I was everyone else. So it felt different this time around. It wasn't, Jesse Kelly in a MAGA hat coming up to me at the airport. It was every walk of life, every race, every religion, every creed. It was really special. I saw something really unique. I never get overconfident. I'm sort of a pessimist because I don't trust the other side at all. I don't think that magically, I'm wondering where those 15 million Joe Biden voters are, that they magically disappeared. You had elections in 2020, they're this, and then you look at 16, you look at 12, and they're all these levels, they're basically stayed the same. Same with the other day with Democrats, but I'm sure it was a totally above board election in 2020. But it's really incredible to see. It feels really good because my father has always said this. They tried to prevent it. They haven't run that narrative, but he said he's got to be president for all Americans, not just a segment of a population. And everyone finally gets that, and they proved it on Tuesday.
They did prove it on Tuesday, and it is wild to watch not just the coalition your father built, but the coalition Democrats lost. We don't know which exit poll to believe yet, but you mentioned black men, 23-25% of black men. Latino vote was almost split down the middle. That never, ever happens. Married women went to your father by a comfortable margin. It was really across the board. And I've made the point recently that the Democrats have become this crazy liberal white woman party, and they only speak to them now. Every time they speak, everything's about race, this and that. It's very, very insane. They're talking about multiracial democracies. Blue-collar people don't talk about that and don't care about that. Housewives don't talk about that and don't care about that. They've completely isolated themselves in an ivory tower. I don't know how they get out, Don.
No, I don't. And, the fact that they push all these issues. I mean, I put something up on X earlier today on my Twitter account, and it was like some guy that works at University of Oregon, and he's like, I don't care if your groceries are a little bit more expensive. You just got to vote for tampons in boys' bathrooms and men and women's sports. And I'm like, oh my God, like the party actually believes that. And I think the reality is there are Democrats across America who do care about their grocery prices, who do care about wars breaking out. While the suburban white women focused on, making sure that they can have drive-through abortions 7 years after giving birth. I'm the father of girls. I'm the father of boys. I'm far more worried about my boys getting shipped off to a war that we don't even know why we're in, because the military-industrial complex is going to make a couple of bucks, than I am about those things, especially when you actually get to the reality of the abortion issue, which is, well, now it's at the states. Kamala Harris isn't going to change any of that, and Donald Trump isn't going to change any of that. Like, this sort of issue has been settled by the Supreme Court, so they sort of make much ado about nothing. But, the notion of World War III is far more scary to me. And when I see what I saw yesterday morning when I woke up in Newsmax after about 1 hour of sleep, or not Newsmax, on Newsweek, I guess it was. Hamas has decided it's time for peace. I'm like, it took 12 hours. Like, Trump's not even in the White House, and like the warmongers are like, okay, daddy's home. Now it's time to maybe stop this crap. And that's the reality. Like, everyone understood we were functioning from a position of weakness. We had incompetent leadership, and I think we've spoken about this before, Jesse. But that's the nature of predation. Like, predators prey on the weak, and if America's weak, they're going to do their thing. Like, that's a story as old as time, and that's the reality. Today's Democrat Party is weak. When you see that, I sort of, as a sort of observer of pop culture, I go around the country, and on the rare occasion I saw someone wearing the Biden Harris or the Harris Waltz, camo hat. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the kind of person that would be wearing that. Like, they've never worn camo in their life. It's a fashion statement to a guy that's, 5'2", $107. It's so amazing. It's the party of the suburban white elite and effeminate men. That Tim Walz is really masculine. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, doesn't seem like it to me. I've never seen a wrist quite so limp in my life. Not exactly, something that's all that intimidating. And no, but he's a hunter. I'm like, well, he's a hunter that doesn't know how to load a shotgun. I'm like, can't be much of a hunter. Like, you give me a Beretta A400, you blindfold me, like I'll load it in 2 seconds, not 45. So everything with them is like their entire vision of masculinity is absolutely insane. I thought actually Megyn Kelly did a great job the other night. At my father's rally, coming around, be like, okay, like, no, I actually like traditional masculinity. I want to preserve traditional femininity. I want to save our girls from this stuff. And again, I'm the father of boys and girls. My girls happen to be great athletes, and like, I don't want them competing against a dude that's a foot taller than them, has 60 pounds, and they're both really good golfers. And can drive a ball 80 yards further, even if they're elite at that sport and work hours upon hours every day. Training to be the best, and they can be, but not if they're playing against the boys. It's just insane, and I'm wondering where those suburban moms who go to these triple headers of softball. Like, I don't pretend I enjoyed doing those things. We do those things because we're good parents. Candidly, for me, there was almost nothing more painful in life, but we do it, and it's like you do that for 18 years. You're gonna watch their scholarship get ripped away, like by a dude who is a journeyman athlete. Like, that's BS, and it shouldn't happen. And seems like the rest of America agrees.
Don, I don't want to hear your sob stories about youth sports. My kid is into swimming, and these swim tournaments are like 8 hours long. It's just the most brutal thing in the world. And of course, like you said, I'm not going to miss a minute of it. I'm going to be there.
No, we go.
I'm ready to go.
I've walked around, young girls golf. It's like a 6.5 hour round, and it usually requires, unless you're lucky to be in the area, but you got to drive 3 hours. Then you do 6.5 hours. Then you do 2 or 3 day tournaments, and it's like, well, we kind of want to sleep in our own bed. This is a 14-hour a day to watch. Yeah, no, I love my daughter, but I have told my daughter getting off the course sometimes, I'm like, I love you, but I almost don't love you this much. Like, it's really close. Like, you're actually pushing the boundaries of my love. It's someone's going to cut that. They're going to put it in writing. They're going to take out the joke, and I'm going to be a terrible human being. But that's okay. I've been called so much worse for the last 9 years.
Yeah, you're pretty much used to that. All right, Don, I can't let you go without asking about the next big fight, which actually comes before your father's even sworn in. There's a Senate Majority Leader fight, and that's going to matter a lot. Your father's going to have a lot of people like AG and others who are going to need to be confirmed by a pretty slim GOP majority. Cornyn, Thune, Scott. Cornyn and Thune are losers. I'm not saying Scott's perfect, but he seems to be the best. Is your father planning on weighing in, or is he just washing his hands of it?
Yeah, it's an interesting calculus. I'm obviously involved in transition. That's the only thing I want to be in. It's not because I actually want to place anyone. I just want to axe the scumbags, the guys that'll tell us what we want to hear, and then they think they know better, even if they're unelected bureaucrats that have never accomplished anything in their lives. The problem with that whole race is that the guys that would be great just don't have the votes. It's a secret ballot. No one knows where they're voting. Yep. So you got to be a little careful. You expend a lot of political capital on a secret ballot in the United States Senate, where let's just say not everyone's aligned. I love JD. But there's like 3 or 4 senators that I'd actually ever want to be in a fight with. There's plenty I'd want to be in a fight against. But in a secret ballot, the way the Senate is, you got to be careful. What I don't want is I don't want a loss getting involved in something that's never realistically going to happen. And then the left uses that, and the neocons and the warmongers and the rhinos in in Washington, D.C. Oh, mandate's over. So, it's a tough one because of the nature of it. There's definitely people I'd love to have on there. Of those three, perhaps Rick Scott would be most ideologically aligned. I didn't love that Steve Deace pulled his name out of the hat the other day because I think he could have been great. But it's a hard one to get too involved in, and you got to figure that out. And that's what people don't understand. It's like we always have. I'd love this guy. It's like, well, that's wonderful. I'd love that guy too. But if it's never going to happen within the realm of how DC actually functions under the rules and procedures, people don't often understand that. Hey, Don, why didn't your father jam through the Hearing Protection Act? It's like, well, because Congress didn't put it on his desk. He'd sign it. I had that conversation. Make sure that happens. Why? How is the communists in Europe? You can buy a suppressor, at a grocery store or at a hardware store, but in America, it's a class 3 item. It's insane. But people don't understand the process. And so you get screwed a lot, frankly, by people not understanding the process because they expect you to do something that A, isn't your job. It doesn't work that way. And you can't just miracle it into existence. And so, the Senate thing is tough. I think we're doing better with that. You look at the incoming Senate class, you look at Tim Sheehy, you look at Bernie Moreno, guys I went to bat for and fought for. It's slowly changing. I expended all of my political capital last cycle making sure that J.D. Vance got in there, and I had the establishment going after me hard when I used the next 30 years of my political capital with my father to get him to be the VP, and it's I think everyone realized I was probably right now. A star is sort of born. In JD, he's been an absolute rock star, but that was almost not going to happen because of the powers that be. Whether it's the billionaire donor class, whether it's sort of Fox News, whether doing whatever they can to snake these guys. So while I'm very ideological, I'm also a pragmatist in that I would rather get stuff done, and that's the problem with the Republicans. We can have 99% of what we want, and we'll blow it for the 1% that most people don't even care about, wouldn't know about. The Democrats take 51%, they take the win. The next day, they're chipping away at the next percent and the next percent. They win by a death by 1,000 cuts. If we don't get everything we want, that's not even remotely realistic. On day number 1, we blow it all up and we get nothing. So, we do have to work within those boundaries and be a little bit pragmatic, even if we don't like that ideologically. I want wins. I think we have a mandate. I think we have an incredible opportunity to do something. We've surrounded ourselves, whether it's RFK on health, whether it's Elon. With the Doge stuff, the government efficiency thing, we have the opportunity to do something really unique. It's not, Kamala Harris and word salads and tampon Tim. We have people that have surrounded us that have come from different walks of life, different party affiliations, who are just put me in here because I'll be really good. And I'm yes, I agree. I spent time with my father and Elon yesterday. I spent time with RFK Jr. yesterday. Getting these guys involved in those roles and actually racking up some wins for the American public, that's what I want, and that's what my father wants.
It's funny, you hear you say political capital. I told my radio audience the exact same thing last night about the Senate majority race. I said, there's only so much of that political capital to go around, so you better be careful with that kind of stuff. I guess we'll just cross our fingers here. There ain't no perfect world anyway. Don, you are the man. Go try to get some freaking sleep, brother, because now the work really begins. I appreciate you very much. All right, Steve Deace is going to join us in just a moment. Before he does, let's talk about preborn. Let's talk about saving lives. Because now it's a cultural issue. Now it's an issue of the heart. How do we change that? Is it another law? I'm fine with laws, but it's changing hearts. How do you change hearts on an issue like that? Well, you give them free ultrasounds. It's the greatest weapon in the pro-life movement, the ultrasound. Because when a woman hears the heartbeats, more than seeing it, when she hears that heartbeat, she chooses life almost every time. Preborn gives these women free ultrasounds, women who are about to abort their babies. That's where your money goes. $28 buys the ultrasound. Preborn.com/Jesse. We'll be back. Here's an interesting question. Why were there so many votes in 2020 versus this year? We've had 4 years of Joe Biden and 15, 16 million fewer Democrat votes. What happened there? It's an interesting little mystery. I can't wait to unpack that with my friend Steve Deace, host of the incredible Steve Deace Show. Hey, Steve, I'm looking at 20 million fewer Democrat votes this year than 2020. I realize Kamala Harris was a historically bad candidate, but man, there's bad, and then there's 15 million votes fewer bad. What happened, Steve?
It's, to quote the great film of our childhood, Weird Science, Jesse, it's a mind scrambler. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. I've got no answers. I mean, it's mystifying, it's astounding, it's an enigma, it's a puzzle, it's all of those things. And I couldn't possibly venture forth a guess except to go back and do what I did on election night 2020 when I was calling BS on a lot of the numbers we were seeing that just could not possibly be true, and got a whole bunch of censorship and defunds from all the major social media platforms. As a result, of course, none of that money will be refunded to me that I never got. So I guess I'll just take winning this election as the consolation prize, brother.
Steve, how are you feeling about this election? Obviously, we're all feeling good. I'm not asking that generic question, but right now, the things I'm hearing out of the Trump camp are extremely encouraging to me. When I hear things like RFK is going to start blowing up the FDA, that is music to my ears. When I hear that Elon Musk is going to go in there with a hatchet to the federal budget, that's music to my ears. I am unreasonably excited, and you know me well. I don't ever get unreasonably excited about anything, but I am right now.
I am too, and of course that makes me just waiting for the shoe to drop here, but I am too, based on the conversations that I have had. I think they're way more prepared. I think they're talking to a lot of the right people. Just one anecdotal example, I was doing a Q&A on Twitter on my flight home back from the Blaze last night, and most of the questions I got were, what's your dream cabinet? Who do you think should be in these positions? And I finally I just told people I'm not going to answer any of those questions because they're talking to so many people I like, respect, and know, that my fear is if I say out loud that I think they'd be great picks, I'd harm their chances. All right, so I'm not going to say anything. You know, they have done their homework. I know people that are up for cabinet positions that are into their third round of interviews already. This thing is way more planned out, way more plotted out, and not even by 2016's kind of haphazard, I can't believe we won this thing, but by really almost any standard we've seen on the right in our time. I mean, they are ready to lead and govern for sure. Again, whether they'll be able to execute it when the time comes and the reality of the Republican Party we're all in and how much it hates us, particularly if they don't do what you said, which is something I communicated right away to people I know close to the former and now next president. You cannot allow John Cornyn and John Thune, a Mitch McConnell acolyte, to take that position as Senate leader and just play obstructionist for the next 4 years. You've got to put somebody in there that is loyal to you and your mandate. I agree with you on that. I think that's the number one priority. They're going to try to have that voice vote maybe as soon as this week or next at the latest to try to ram that through. And President Trump has got to put his thumb, ring finger, every appendage on the scale to make sure someone has that position that is not an empty corporatist suit. But other than that, I am very impressed with the stuff I've heard in the last 24, 48 hours about their preparation to do this thing and actually keep his promises.
Steve, let's have a chat about RFK Jr., because actually there's a wonderful piece on The Blaze talking about the FDA, CDC. I brought it up earlier. I'm not some RFK Jr. fan by any stretch of the imagination, but the things he says about America's health, about the crap that's in our foods, about attacking government corruption, they are music to a guy like me's ears, and I am hopeful.
I am too. I think a very revealing moment is when President Trump, unprompted during his victory speech on Tuesday night, brought him back up again. And he reiterated what he said to Joe Rogan, which is, I'm going to let him go wild when it comes to public health. He has sold me on that stuff. Now on the oil on that kind of stuff, we're going to keep him away from all that liquid gold. It's the same thing he said to Joe Rogan. But and this is what I would say to the Maha people, and a lot of this, frankly, before COVID, I thought was kooky, granola crunching kind of stuff. And I find myself now aligned with all these people pushing back on the COVID narrative. And my eyes were open to a lot of things that I didn't understand and even want to believe prior to COVID. I would say this to these people: when you help Donald Trump, he does pay you back. And my native tribe of evangelicals, he was intimately aligned with us in 2016, got record turnouts of our numbers, won him the presidency. The number 2 issue in that election were judicial nominations, and he won those voters by 25 points. A lot of those, that's my native tribe, evangelicals. And then he delivered, appointed the justices that overturned Roe. But then you saw really that that group of people, my group of people, they were not prepared for the world after Trump kept his promises and have lost a lot of their political clout as a result. And so my hope is that the Maha people, Donald Trump, hey, you're the unique coalition partner this time. Like, how could you guys unite with the guy who's twice divorced and everything else? This time it is, how can the Maha people unite with the guy that's the author of the jab and he's a germaphobe and everything else? Well, he's going to pay them back. I am convinced of that. He pays you. He's an art of the deal transactional guy. He's going to pay them back. And I hope the Maha people are way more prepared than my evangelicals were when Trump gives them what they want, that they are prepared to run with it and do something about it. Having met RFK Jr. and spent some time with him, I think he's definitely way more prepared than your average Mike Pence wannabe evangelical leader.
Steve, obviously the other side is going to respond. Communists are demonic and they're fighting a revolution, so they're not going to stop fighting that revolution now that they had a horrible election loss. But maybe I'm still basking in the glow of Tuesday, but it doesn't feel like it's got the same juice as of right now. It feels like they're going to have a harder time getting that going. Talk to me. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. I mean, 2 things can be true at once. They've got a real problem. I mean, Donald Trump lost New York by less than Kamala Harris lost Florida. Donald Trump may end up getting almost 40% of the vote in Queens. Donald Trump won Hispanic men, won them by 10 points. Donald Trump got a historic amount of Hispanic voters by a GOP presidential candidate while running on a platform of mass deportations. Donald Trump won non-college educated whites by 32 points. If you go back, Jesse, and look at the last time we won the popular vote, the electorate is completely inverted. All right, George W. Bush won white college graduates overwhelmingly, lost white non-college graduates overwhelmingly. Well, this time it's inverted. Kamala won white college grads by 10, and she lost non-college whites by 32. So it's an entirely different environment now. Donald Trump has raided their coalition and has reduced them essentially to beta males and viewers. And I repeat myself. And so they're introspective over there. There are some people that are like, we got to stop running on crazy stuff. Joe Scarborough's even said some of this kind of stuff. Then there's plenty of other people there, though, that are committed to the crazy. They are definitely licking their wounds more than we anticipated and what we saw after 2016. But I would still caution people. It is over 70 days until that inauguration. There's a lot of things they could scheme and plot to try to disrupt things on the streets of America between now and then.
Yeah, it sure is. Steve, my brother, thank you. As always, I appreciate you. All right. You gotta fight back with the corporate world too, against all this garbage. Don't forget what Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile have done with our culture war. Don't let that go. Oh, when St. George Floyd died, they were all over it, weren't they? Go look at the causes. Go look up your cell phone company in DEI and tell me if you're happy to support that. My cell phone company, Pure Talk, they support veterans. That's what they care about. They love this country, led by a Vietnam veteran. Pure Talk. Switch to Pure Talk. They're on the same 5G network. You will save a fortune. You can keep your phone. It's easy. You keep your phone, you keep your number, or they have all the fancy new phones if you want one. There's no reason not to switch. And I know that's a double negative, but I went to community college. Switch to Pure Talk. puretalk.com/JesseTV. We'll be back. Tuesday was great. No question about it. Tuesday was great. For the most part. There were some negatives. We'll talk about some of the good and some of the bad that we haven't talked about yet with Brittany Mayer, host of the Brittany Mayer Show. Brittany, okay, first let's talk about the bad. We've all been celebrating. Let's focus on the bad for a moment. It wasn't The best night in the world for pro-lifers like me, not by any stretch of the imagination, with the exception of a few states like Florida. Pro-abortion things got passed in this country. This is just who we are now.
Yeah, that's a big hit, right? I've been so focused on the positive that now you're whiplashing me. I'm like, oh yeah, there was some negative. That was a big disappointment. But it does show that we still have work to do in this country. You know, we can't slack off and let our foot off the gas. So in that sense, I think the mandate for us as pro-lifers is clear that we have to keep this conversation going and not get lazy. We've seen such a change in the Republican Party, right? Like this new MAGA movement where we have become much more friendly to the murder of the unborn. And as an abolitionist, and you too, I think that just shows that there is work to do, you know, within this tent. And that starts with conversation. And really, at the very base bottom line is that abortion is killing our most innocent, and our society will be judged for how we treat our most innocent and vulnerable. So yes, there is still more work to do. Overall, such great news coming out of Tuesday, but on the abortion issue, we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, that's how it goes. All right, now enough of that nonsense. Let's focus on the good. Something that I know you're going to be all over like white on rice, but a lot of people may not realize. Gascon, LA, he's gone?
He is gone. You know, I've been looking at the map. I actually pulled it up here. This is California, and a lot of people are going to be surprised to know that California is not as hard blue as they want us to think it is. And we're seeing that in a lot of the propositions that were on the ballot. But most importantly, the fact that Soros-backed Gascon is gone. He was a huge reason why California has been shredded, torn to pieces. When you see Los Angeles, you know, the smash and grabs and those crazy car scenes where you have cars whipping out of control with people standing around watching late at night, that's in large part due to both Kamala Harris and Gascon. Well, we just passed a grassroots proposition that Gavin Newsom did not want on the ballot. He did not want to pass. And overwhelmingly, the people of California said, enough. We want law and order back. We want safe streets again. We want to be able to walk on the sidewalks and not be stepping over needles and literal human feces like you've seen in San Francisco, that famous map that was held up at the debate. I think it was the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, who held it up and showed that it's littered by human feces. So the California people have had enough with these progressive policies. And one of the biggest hits to progressive policies was removing Gascon from office.
California, obviously you're a resident there. It's a place that I love dearly. I've lived there before. I have so many friends there. It has the most Republicans of any state in the union. Most people don't realize that. But it has seemed fairly hopeless statewide for quite some time. But hopeless is a word you don't want to use often. Is there a chance, it's not going to be next year, right? 5 years from now, is there a chance it can come back?
100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. California will turn red. Mark my word for it. It will turn red. And you know what it's going to take? It's going to take people like me and a lot of good people in California. You saw that map I just showed. California is very, very much red. It's much more red than people give us credit for. And I think county by county, if the good people in California, the patriots, continue to resist the progressive policies and continue to run good people for lower offices, we will see a comeback in California. We just saw what happened in Pennsylvania. I don't think that California is out of the dialogue of there being a comeback. And you couple that with these progressive policies that are literally pushing Californians out of California. And a lot of those are the wealthy who have turned a great profit off these progressive policies. They're leaving in droves. It's the lower class who's forced to stay. And those are the good people who are sick and tired of the policies but can't afford to leave. So I actually think that we will see a turn in California. It won't be, in this next election, but I think in our lifetime, we're going to see California turn red.
I'm going to hold you to that, Brittany. I'm going to hold you to that.
Good.
All right. Before I let you go, it does look like the people of this country really, really hate illegal immigration. We had 8 states that had ballot measures saying, hey, they can't vote, they can't, and they all passed. It didn't matter where it was. The people of this country are sick to death of open borders, and it's giving me maybe a glimmer of hope that this country might have the stones it's going to take to deport about 20 million people.
I absolutely think that the country is ready for it. I was talking to Bill Malugin the other day, and he was saying that the border mattered. The border mattered. That was a huge driving force that pushed people who typically would not vote, even the Hispanic vote. We saw a huge swing in the Hispanic vote of these people who the Democrats wrote off as being all for these progressive policies, humane borders. And smart Americans are looking at this and saying, this is objectively unsafe. We are bringing in unsafe criminals, like Trump has been saying for a long time. They're emptying their jails and they're sending them here. And Americans finally saw that, and the border mattered. And people said, we don't want 4 more years of this. Not only do we not want 4 more years of this, but we want America safe again. And they made that mandate very clear in electing Donald Trump. I think that the American people are absolutely ready for mass deportation. And I would say the American people as a whole. You have those liberal patches who are always going to complain and whine, but they're very small. Overwhelmingly, the American people have spoken and said, shut the borders down and mass deport.
Round them up and get them out. Brittany, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. We're not quite done yet, are we? Got a little light in the mood. Next. All right, it's time to lighten the mood. The Virginia Military Institute appears pleased about the Trump victory.
Attention, inside and outside areas. The winner of the 2024 presidential election is Donald J. Trump.
Let's go!
Those studs. Good for you, fellas. I'll see you tomorrow. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.